Welcome to this channel, and today I'm going to be teaching you biology. So the topic we are going to be talking about today is cell structure and functions. So you can see on the board we have different components, that means organelles that make up the cell of living organisms. But before we go into it, we need to know what the cell is. The cell is a structural and functional unit of life. So through the use of a cell, living organisms are able to carry out all their life activities like reproduction, movement, excretion, and so on. We can say that all these life activities are the characteristics of living things. So based on structure, cells are grouped into prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell. So the prokaryotic cell are the cells that are devoid of nucleus. And their organelles lacks membrane. Example, like in bacteria. So we have the eukaryotic cell, which have nucleus and their organelles are membrane bound. So this can be found in higher living organisms. So living organisms are grouped into two based on the numbers of cells that they possess. So we have the unicellular organism, which are organisms that have only a single cell, which they use to carry out all their life processes, like amoeba and euglena. So we have the other one, which is called multicellular organism. So the multicellular organisms, they possess two or more cells. This depends on the complexity of the organisms. So example of multicellular organisms are toad, flowering plant, fish, and man, and so on. So today we are going to be looking at different structures and the functions of the cell. So the cell is surrounded by a double membrane lipid layer called the cell membrane. So this cell membrane is the structure that surrounds the cell. It contains a lot of materials that are present on it, like cholesterol and proteins. This helps the cell membrane to perform its function. So the cell membrane maintains the integrity of the cell because it will allow some materials in and out, and it will prevent some material in and out of the cell. And also it helps cell to communicate with the environment and the cells in the surroundings. Okay, so from there we move to this centrally located organelle called the nucleus. So you can see the nucleus is centrally located and it is membrane bound. So the membrane that bonds the nucleus is called the nuclear membrane. You can see. So that's the nuclear membrane. So this nuclear membrane surrounds the nucleus completely and separate the content of the nucleus from the content of the cytoplasm. So another thing about this nuclear membrane is that it has tiny pores, which we call nuclear pores. So these pores, they prevent large molecules and large proteins from moving out and in of the cell. So we also have the chromatin material, which are present in the nucleus. Yes, these are the chromatin. So they are complex of DNA and protein. When they condense, they form the chromosomes. And also we have this dense spot in the nucleus. We call it nucleus. This is where the formation of ribosomal RNA takes place. So there is this structure that is located very close to the nucleus. We call it endoplasmic reticulum. So we have the rough and the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. So the difference between the rough and the smooth endoplasmic reticulum is that this one has ribosome on its cytoplasmic surface, while this one lacks ribosome on the cytoplasmic surface. So this rough endoplasmic reticulum, since it has ribosomes, and we know that ribosomes are responsible for the synthesis of protein, so it has relationship with the production of protein in the cell. So this rough endoplasmic reticulum takes developing protein from the cytoplasm and continues their development. So development of proteins and the folding of materials takes place in the rough endoplasmic reticulum. After materials are correctly folded, they will be transported to the Golgi material. So why this smooth endoplasmic reticulum? This smooth endoplasmic reticulum do not have any relationship with ribosomes, but it contains important enzymes that are responsible for the synthesis of phospholipid lipids and steroids in the body, and also it plays important role in the metabolism of drugs and toxins. So there is this structure that is very close to the nuclear membrane. We call it centrioles. So these centrioles, they are cylindrical structures that are located close to the nuclear membrane. So they contain microtubules. So what are the functions of the centrioles? So these centrioles takes part in cell division because they are responsible for the formation of spindle fiber which separates chromosome during cell division, and also they form the base for cilia and flagella for cell movement. So we have this Golgi apparatus. So this Golgi apparatus is a double membrane bond organelle which have about 5 to 8 folds. So these folds are called cisternae. They are called cisternae. So what do? They take the protein that are brought from the rough endoplasmic reticulum, they modify the material. So modification and distribution of material takes place in the Golgi apparatus. So from there we have this organelle here. We call it mitochondria. So this mitochondria can be oval in shape or can be rod in shape. So is a double membrane organelle which has intermembrane space. So it has the outer membrane and the inner membrane. So this inner membrane is folded into what we call cristae, and it is filled with matrix. So inside this matrix we have a lot of important enzymes that are responsible for different processes in the body. One of such is ATP synthase, which is responsible for the synthesis of ATP that the body use as energy. So we also have this organelle here. We call it lysosome. So this lysosome is membrane bond, is an organelle that is membrane bond and is spherical, as you can see from the shape. So it is generated from Golgi apparatus and it is acidic in nature. So what is the function of a lysosome? Lysosome contains hydrolytic enzyme which takes part in the recycling system of the body. That means they help the body to recycle, and when there are harmful materials in the cell, the lysosome are responsible for the destruction of harmful materials before they get to the cytoplasm. So that is the function of lysosome. So we have this organelle here. We call it vacuole. So this vacuole is also here, and they are organelles that they store nutrients. They store nutrients and water which is needed for the survival of the cell. So they are needed for the survival of the cell. So from there we have the cytoskeleton. So this cytoskeleton also, they are fibers that gives support and shape to the cell. So they are responsible for giving shape to the cell. So these are organelles that are present within the cell. So in plant cells we have other cells we have cell organelles that are not present in this diagram, like chloroplast, which contains chlorophyll that the cell use for photosynthesis. And also we have starch granules that is used to store starch. And also we have cell wall. Yes, so the cell wall is present in plant, so it gives rigidity to the cell. So we can see how the structure of a cell will determine the functions of the cell. And so from here we can deduce the components that are common to both plants and animals. So we can see that cell membrane, as well as nucleus, the rough and the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, the Golgi apparatus, the ribosomes, the mitochondria, and the vacuole. These are organelles that are common to both plants and animals. So why the differences between the plant and animal cells are: the plant cell possesses cell wall, while the animal cell do not possess cell wall. So the plant cell has a large and central vacuole, just one large central vacuole, while the animal cell has small vacuoles, but they are numerous. So the animal cell, we can see it is well dense, it is denser than the plant cell. So the plant cell lacks centrioles and lysosome, while animal cell has centrioles and lysosome. So the animal cell lacks chloroplast and starch granules. Yes, they lack chloroplast, while the plant cell possesses chloroplast and starch granules. So in the plant cell stores uh, they store lipid as oil, while animal cell store lipids as fat. So you can see the differences between the plant and animal cell. So from this we know that for a living organism to be able to carry out its functions, it must possess a well functioning cell. And the functions that a living cell will perform will depend on the structure of the cell, will depend on the structure of the cell. That is why complex organisms are made up of numerous cells. So we have some specialized cells in the body, which include the muscle cells, the blood cells, the nerve cells, the bone cells, and so on. So even the reproductive cells, they are also there. So why in the reproductive cells for animals, we have the spermatocytes and the oocytes, while in plants we have the pollen grains and the ovules. So you can see all these functions are all these cells are responsible for different functions in the body. So we have come to the end of today's class. So I hope I will see you in our next class. See you. Bye.